Hello everyone, this is Ben, and welcome to another installment of Shower Thoughts, the budget commander series that proves magic isn't pay to win. In this week's video, we'll explore the idea of using a non-sliver commander to helm a sliver typal deck. I got this idea while taking apart the Necron Precon to build Mikaeus the Unhallowed, and I realized he would be a great Necron commander, despite him not being a Necron himself. So this got me thinking about other typal themes that might be great with an off-type commander that players have overlooked. And if you can take a second to give this video a like, it'll really help out the channel. So without further ado, let's get into it. First on my list is Hofri Ghostforge. At first glance, Hofri might seem like a spirit typal commander, but that's where you're wrong. Because Hofri turns creatures that die into spirits, you can make him the commander of any number of typal decks. Well, almost any, probably not elves. Thankfully, there are 46 slivers in Boros colors, which is more than enough to build a dedicated slivers deck. Hofri came to mind thanks to his ability to provide board wipe protection for our slivers. The biggest problem with many typal decks is they are creature-based, meaning board wipes tend to hard counter them. How many times have you seen decks like Elf Ball be promptly removed from the game because of a well-timed Wrath of God or Toxic Deluge? But Hofri takes this weakness to board wipes and turns it into a strength. If we can wipe the board with Hofri and a sliver that provides haste, such as Cloud Shredder Sliver or Heart Sliver, it'll clear the way for our new Spirit Sliver army to attack the biggest threat with ease. If you have the extra budget for it, you can also run a sneak attack style deck to cheat slivers into play. Next on my list is Myrkul, Lord of Bones. It's no surprise that they quickly became the most played Abzan commander thanks to their ability, which lends itself to wacky combos and interactions, but they made it onto this list because they provide outstanding board wipe and removal protection from the command zone, much like Hofri. I will admit that exiling slivers might seem like a downside. However, there are times you just want the buffs that your slivers provide. It doesn't matter that your Venom Sliver or Talon Sliver are enchantments, you just want those buffs. And Myrkul's ability really shines with niche slivers such as Necrotic Sliver, Darkheart Sliver, and Victal Sliver, allowing you to protect your other slivers from exile removal. My favorite sliver pair in this deck are Basil Sliver and Lazatap Sliver. Basil Sliver will let you sacrifice slivers for 2 black mana, while Lazatap Sliver will give you a sliver army token every time a non-token sliver you control dies, and then you could sacrifice that army token for another 2 black mana. Now if you want to be cute in this deck, you could try adding Starfield of Nyx and Maskwood Nexus to turn each of the enchantment tokens into slivers again. Next is Surrak Dragonclaw, which seems like a pretty obvious choice as a sliver commander. He lets you cast your slivers without fear of counter magic, and he gives them trample. Now Surrak might seem like the most boring commander on this list, but remember he does have flash. This means you can use him as either a combat trick or protection at instant speed. If a player tries to counter a Gale Rider Sliver, let's say, just flash him into play and problem solved. Or you can turn your slivers into a trampling threat right away. Plus, Temur provides access to some of the best clone spells in Magic, such as Mythos of Aluna, Quasi-Duplicate, and Mirror Hall Mimic, allowing you to double up on your best slivers. I'd also suggest you include Bramble Sovereign as a repeatable way to create slivers. Now, if you have the extra budget for it, you can also try Riku of 2 Reflections in the 99 or as the commander. However, I often find Riku to be a bit clunky, so your mileage may vary. You should prioritize copying Magnetic Sliver, Synapse Sliver, and Brood Sliver for the buff, card draw, and tokens respectively. Fourth on the list is Raffine Scheming Seer. Now the few Raffine decks I've seen were just good stuff piles playing the best cards in Esper. It's cool the first time, but gets pretty stale the 4th or 5th time. So I wanted to give Raffine a new coat of paint, but wasn't sure what to do. I find it difficult to build with generically powerful commanders like this, because there are so many different build paths. But then it hit me like a truck. Raffine would be an amazing sliver commander, thanks to his ability to draw cards and buff slivers. Okay, I know his ability isn't actually card draw, more like card selection, but that isn't a bad thing. You see, Esper is already great at reanimating creatures, so we can combine that with slivers to make a completely unique deck. By using Raffine's ability, you select the best slivers for any given situation, and you can dump the rest to reanimate at a later time. I'd highly recommend cards with Cypher, such as Right of Return or Stolen Identity, to reanimate or grow your sliver army. And if you have the extra budget, you should add card draw enhancers such as Teferi's Ageless Insight or Emirate's Archive, so Raffine becomes actual card draw. The last commander on this list is Rocco, Cabaretti, Caterer. Sliver decks tend to lean on their low mana cost and sheer numbers to win games quickly, and Rocco can improve this strategy by letting us get the exact sliver we need to cause the most mayhem straight from our deck. We can tutor up Cloud Shredder Sliver to get in with flying, or Virulent Sliver for a surprised infect win. On the other hand, you could build Rocco as a mid-range sliver commander instead of aggro by including more land ramp and being selective with your slivers. My favorite sliver to tutor up in this style of deck would be Hatchery Sliver. It provides a great mana outlet for all the other slivers, and his pseudo card advantage. For example, if you replicate a Lava Belly Sliver 2 or 3 times, you've essentially double or triple spelled with only 1 card. Make sure to include ways to bounce creatures to your hand so you can tutor with Rocco again, or replicate the same sliver more than once. This strategy also has the added benefit of being resilient to board wipes, because your sliver army will mostly be tokens. And finally, some honorable mentions. There were several other commanders who I thought about including in this list, but they didn't quite make the cut. So I decided to give them a little love here. Myrkul the Black Rose is an interesting choice, thanks to her ability to both buff slivers and provide board wipe protection. Also, you don't normally see slivers in just Grixis colors, so I thought that'd be interesting. The Mimeoplasm sounded like a cool idea, but I wasn't sure what to do with it. While they could become any sliver in the graveyard, most slivers top out at 5 power and toughness. This means you either need to include more non-slivers, or just accept it will be a small ooze. Alesha Who Smiles at Death is a great aggro sliver commander. She provides cheap recursion for most slivers, given their generally low power. In Mardu, there are 48 slivers with power 2 or less, so tons of creatures to recur. Inga and Esco were one of the last cuts to the list. I think they are a great sliver commander. They provide card draw and ramp from the command zone, which is just what slivers want. But that is all I have to say about them. They're pretty generic. And then finally, Momir Vig, Simic Visionary. This was the other Simic commander originally on my list. I cut him because of how much shuffling you'd have to do when playing this commander, but I think he would be a really fun and powerful sliver commander.